The emergency room doors burst open with a
Gunshot
violence
wound.
that shattered the
Help him.
3 a.m.
Now.
quiet. Adana Nwosu looked up from her charts, her exhausted eyes widening as 4 men in expensive suits, now ruined with blood, carried in a 5th man. He was barely conscious, his white shirt completely crimson, leaving a trail of red droplets across her pristine floor. Gunshot wound. The leader barked in Korean. Help him. Now. Adana's hands were already moving before her mind caught up. 28 years old. 3 years into her surgical residency at Seoul Metropolitan Hospital. And she'd seen enough trauma to know this man had minutes, not hours. Get him on the table. She commanded in perfect Korean, her Nigerian accent barely noticeable after 4 years in Seoul. You apply pressure there. You call for blood, O negative. 6 units. But the men didn't move toward the phone. No police, the leader said, his hand moving inside his jacket. The threat was clear. No calls, just save him. Adana's heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't a mugging victim. This wasn't random violence. These men had military precision in the way they moved, expensive watches glinting under the fluorescent lights, and eyes that had seen death before maybe caused it. She looked down at the man on her table, even unconscious, even dying. He was beautiful in a way that made her hands shake. Sharp jawline, dark hair falling across his forehead, skin pale from blood loss. Young, maybe 32, 33, and dying. He has 15 minutes, she said quietly. Maybe less. If you want him alive, you let me work. No interference. The leader she'd later learn, his name was Jin-ho, studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Adana's world narrowed to the wound. Entry wound left of the sternum. Exit wound, thank God. An exit wound near the shoulder blade. The bullet had missed the heart by centimeters. But internal bleeding, possibly a nicked pulmonary artery, definitely broken ribs. Her hands moved with the precision her father Papa, she thought with a familiar ache, had always admired. Dr. Solomon Wosu had been the best surgeon in Lagos before the car accident took him 3 years ago. Before the grief had sent Adana fleeing to Seoul, to a scholarship, to a new life where nobody knew that she was a woman running from ghosts. Scalpel, she murmured, though no nurse stood beside her. She grabbed the instruments herself, working with a focused intensity that bordered on meditation. Time became fluid. Minutes stretched into hours, or maybe seconds, she couldn't tell. There was only the blood, the sutures, the steady beep of the heart monitor that kept threatening to flatline. His chest rose, fell, rose again. She was stitching the final layer when his eyes opened. Dark eyes, impossibly dark, like staring into a well at midnight. They focused on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Am I dead? His voice was rough, barely a whisper. Not today, Adana replied, her hands steady even as her pulse raced. But you came close. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it had reached his eyes. Then I owe you my life. You owe me nothing. Just try not to get shot again. He studied her face, really studied it, as if memorizing every feature. Her dark skin, darker than most Koreans ever saw. Her natural hair pulled back in a bun, a few coils escaping. Her eyes, brown and bright with adrenaline and exhaustion. What's your name? He asked. Dr. Nwosu, she said professionally. Your first name. Something in his tone made it clear this wasn't a request. Adana felt a chill run down her spine despite the warmth of the OR. Adana. He repeated it, the syllables strange in his mouth but somehow perfect. Adana. It means father's daughter. The words came out bitter. She'd been Papa's pride, his legacy, and now he was gone, and she was alone in a foreign country, saving criminals in unauthorized surgeries at 4 a.m. I'm Min Jae, he said. Then, to Jin-ho, take her contact information, all of it. Wait, Adana started. But Min Jae's eyes were already closing, his body surrendering to unconsciousness again. Safer that way. The painkillers she'd administered were strong, but not strong enough for what she'd just done. Jinho stepped forward, and Adana noticed for the first time the gun holstered at his hip. "Your phone number, Dr. Adana," he said politely. Too politely. "Your address. Your schedule. I can't patient confidentiality. You performed an illegal surgery on a gunshot victim without reporting it," Jinho interrupted, his tone still pleasant. "You're already in violation of more laws than I can count. But Mr. Park is grateful. And when Mr. Park is grateful, good things happen. When he's ungrateful." The threat hung in the air like the smell of antiseptic and blood. Adana's mind raced. She could refuse. She could call security. She could, but she looked at the 4 men surrounding her, looked at the cameras she was sure weren't recording anymore, looked at the man on her table who she'd just saved, and she understood with crystalline clarity that her life had just changed forever. She recited her phone number, her address, her schedule at the hospital. Jinho entered every detail into his phone, with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. Then he smiled, and it was the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Mr. Park will be in touch, Dr. Adana. Thank you for your service." They left as suddenly as they'd arrived, carrying Min Jae on a stretcher they'd apparently brought with them. Professional, organized, terrifying. Adana stood alone in the emergency room, her scrubs covered in blood, her hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading, and realized she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Or maybe, something whispered in her mind, the most important decision. She looked down at her hands, her father's hands, skilled and steady. Papa had always said that a surgeon's duty was to save lives. No questions asked. The Hippocratic Oath didn't have a clause for unless they're criminals. But Papa had never operated on a man whose eyes held death and debt in equal measure. Adana stripped off her gloves, disposed of the evidence as best she could, and walked to the staff bathroom. In the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Dark circles under her eyes from double shifts, weight loss from surviving on hospital cafeteria, coffee, and ambition. 28 years old and looking older, looking tired, looking like a woman who'd run from grief straight into danger. "What have you done, Ada?" she whispered to her reflection. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You saved my life tonight. I don't forget debts. MJ." Her hands trembled as she read the message again and again. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. The flowers arrived at the hospital on Monday morning. Not a small bouquet, an arrangement so extravagant that the delivery man needed help carrying it to Adana's office. White lilies, red roses, and something purple she didn't recognize, all arranged with the kind of artistry that screamed expensive. The card was simple. "Thank you. MJ." Her colleague, Dr. Kim Soo-jin, whistled low. "Someone's got an admirer. Who's MJ?" "Nobody," Adana lied, already reaching for the trash. She couldn't keep these, couldn't accept anything from him. But Soo-jin rescued the card, reading it again. "These are from Lotus Designs. Do you know what flowers from there cost? Whoever MJ is, he's rich and interested. He's a patient, that's all." "Uh-huh. And I'm dating Kim Soo-hyun." Soo-jin grinned, tucking the card into Adana's pocket despite her protests. "If you're not interested, at least enjoy the flowers. They're gorgeous." The flowers stayed. Adana told herself it was because removing them would cause more questions. But she caught herself staring at them throughout the day, at the perfection of each petal, at the care someone had taken in the arrangement. The second delivery came on Tuesday. Chocolate again, clearly expensive, Belgian, in a black box with gold ribbons. Wednesday brought a book, a first edition of Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, in pristine condition. The note inside, written in surprisingly elegant handwriting, said, "I thought you might miss home." Adana's throat tightened. She did miss home. Missed Lagos. Missed her mother wherever Mama had disappeared to after Papa's death. The grief swallowing her whole until she'd vanished into the streets. Unreachable. Unfindable. Missed her sister Chioma, now raising 3 kids and working double shifts at the Lagos hospital where Papa used to be chief surgeon. She missed being somewhere she belonged. On Thursday, Min Jae himself appeared. Adana was finishing her rounds when she saw him in the hallway standing, walking, looking impossibly healthy for a man who'd been dying 4 days ago. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, his dark hair styled back, and when he saw her, that almost smile returned. Dr. Adana. Mr. Park. Her voice was steady, professional. "You should still be resting. The wound is healing perfectly, thanks to you." He stepped closer, and she caught his scent-expensive cologne mixing with something darker, something that reminded her of the blood on her hands that night. "I've had my personal physician check your work. Impeccable," he said. "You saved my life. I was doing my job at 4 a.m. alone, without proper support or legal protection." His eyes held hers. "That goes beyond duty, Dr. Adana. That's courage. Or recklessness. I haven't decided which." "What do you want?" The question came out sharper than intended. Min Jae's smile widened fractionally. "Direct. I appreciate that. Most people dance. Around me, afraid to speak plainly." He handed her a business card, heavy stock, embossed lettering. "I want to repay my debt. You need something, anything, you call this number. I don't need anything from you. Everyone needs something." His gaze traveled over her, not sexually, but analytically, like he was reading a book written on her skin. "You work 70-hour weeks. You live in a small apartment in a not great neighborhood. You send money home to Nigeria every month, leaving yourself barely enough to survive. You have ambition. I can see it. You want to be chief of surgery one day, maybe open your own practice." Adana's blood went cold. "How do I make it my business to know about people I'm indebted to?" Min Jae interrupted smoothly. "Don't be alarmed. Knowledge is just a precaution." "A precaution," she repeated, anger flooding through the fear. "You mean leverage. You're making sure I don't talk. I'm making sure we understand each other." His tone didn't change, but something in his eyes did a flash of something harder, colder. "You saved my life, Dr. Adana. That creates a bond, whether you like it or not. In my world, debts are sacred, and I always repay what I owe. I don't want." Her phone rang. The hospital number. She answered, grateful for the interruption. "Doctor, Nwosu, we have an emergency. Multi-car accident, multiple casualties incoming. All surgical staff report immediately. I'm on my way." She hung up, already moving past Min Jae. "I have to go." His hand caught her wrist gently, but unmistakably firm. "I meant what I said. You need anything, call." Then he released her, and Adana ran toward the ER, her heart pounding not from exertion, but from the lingering warmth of his touch on her skin. The attack came on a Friday night. Adana was walking home from her shift, exhausted and distracted, when she noticed the car following her, black sedan, tinted windows, moving too slowly for normal traffic. Her pace increased. The car matched her speed. Lagos had taught her to be aware, to sense danger before it arrived. Seoul had made her complacent. She'd forgotten that monsters existed everywhere, wore different faces, spoke different languages. The car door opened. 2 men emerged, moving with purpose toward her. One spoke in rapid Korean. "Come with us. Don't make a scene." "I don't know you," Adana said, backing away, her phone already in her hand. The second man lunged. Training took over self-defense classes her father had insisted on. Years of dealing with aggressive patients in emergency rooms. She dodged, her keys clutched between her knuckles like a weapon, aiming for his eyes. She didn't see the third man until his hand clamped over her mouth. Panic flooded her system. She bit down hard, tasting blood, hearing him curse. Her elbow connected with something soft his stomach, and then she was running, her lungs burning, her mind screaming for help. She didn't get far. Strong arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her off the ground. She screamed, kicked, fought with everything she had. Then, gunshots. The arms released her. Adana stumbled, catching herself against a wall, her vision swimming with adrenaline and terror. More gunshots, shouting in Korean, the sound of cars screeching. When her vision cleared, Jinho was standing over the men who'd attacked her, his gun still drawn. Behind him, 3 more of Min-jae's men had formed a protective barrier around her. Dr. Adana, Jinho said calmly, as if they'd met for coffee instead of a shootout. Are you hurt? I know what... Words failed. Mr. Park anticipated this might happen. He posted guards near your apartment. It seems his enemies have learned about you. Jinho holstered his weapon with practiced ease. We need to move you. Now. Move me where? Somewhere safe, Mr. Park insists. I'm not going anywhere with you people. The words burst out, all her fear and anger, channeled into defiance. I'm calling the police. The police can't protect you from the Jang family, Jinho interrupted, his tone gentle but firm. These men work for Jang So-yoon. She's ambitious. And she's learned that Mr. Park values you, which makes you a target. Adana's mind spun. Values me? He doesn't even know me. You saved his life. In his world, Doctor. Adana, that means everything. Jinho gestured to the car, a different car, sleek and armored. Please. He's waiting. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to run, to call for help. But the bodies of her attackers lay crumpled on the pavement, and she understood with sickening clarity that the help available to normal people wouldn't reach her here. She'd crossed a line the night she saved Min-jae's life. Now she was standing on the other side, where regular rules didn't apply. Just for tonight, she heard herself say, until the police handle this. Jinho didn't correct her delusion. He simply opened the car door and waited. Adana got in. The house, no. The estate sat in the hills outside Seoul, all modern glass and steel and impossible wealth. Security gates, cameras, armed guards at every corner. Adana's stomach churned as they passed through 3 separate checkpoints. This wasn't a house. This was a fortress. Min-jae waited in what he called the library floor-to-ceiling books in multiple languages. Leather furniture, a view of Seoul spread out like scattered diamonds below. He stood by the window, still and watchful, and turned when she entered. Dr. Adana, I'm glad you're safe. Safe? The word came out bitter. I was attacked because of you. Yes, no denial, no pretty lies. Just that simple acknowledgement. I'm sorry. I'd hoped my enemies wouldn't move this quickly, but Seo-yoon is impulsive. Who is she? A rival. Someone who wants what I have and believes hurting my people will give her leverage. He moved closer, and Adana forced herself not to step back. You're under my protection now. I don't want your protection. I want my life back. Your life, Min-jae said quietly, ended the moment you saved me. I'm sorry for that too. But this is reality now. Seo-yoon knows about you. She won't stop until she's used you to hurt me, which means the only safe place for you is here. You can't keep me prisoner. I'm not. But his eyes said otherwise. You're free to leave any time. But understand the moment you walk out that door, you're exposed, vulnerable. And Seo-yoon will take advantage of that vulnerability. Adana's hands clenched into fists. So my choices are stay here as your captive or die out there. Your choice is accept my protection or refuse it. But yes, those are the likely outcomes. He gestured to a door on the left. Jin-ho has prepared a room for you. Everything you need is there. Your belongings from your apartment will be brought tomorrow. You went through my apartment. I had my people. Collect necessities. Your privacy was respected. A pause. As much as possible. The rage that swept through Adana was clean and bright. You had no right. I had every right, Min-jae interrupted, and for the first time, she heard steel in his voice. You saved my life, Dr. Adana. That created a bond, a responsibility. I protect what's mine. I'm not yours. No, he agreed, but you're under my protection, which amounts to the same thing. For now. They stared at each other, the tension thick enough to choke on. Adana wanted to scream, to fight, to do something to reclaim the control that had been ripped away from her. But exhaustion was winning. Exhaustion and, God help her, a small traitorous part of her that felt safe. Which was insane. She was in the house of a crime lord, surrounded by armed guards, being held against her will. This wasn't safety. This was captivity, dressed in expensive furniture. The room, she said finally, her voice hoarse. Show me the room. Min-jae nodded to Jin-ho, who appeared as if summoned. But before Adana could follow him, Min-jae spoke again. For what it's worth, I truly am sorry. If I could undo the danger I've brought to you, I would. But since I can't, he met her eyes, and something in his gaze made her breath catch. I'll do everything in my power to keep you alive. How noble, Adana said acidly. The monster protecting his victim. Yes, Min-jae agreed softly. That's exactly what I am. The room was beautiful. That was the problem. Adana had expected a cell, bare walls, locked door, prison chic. Instead, she got a suite larger than her entire apartment. King-sized bed with silk sheets, private bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. A balcony overlooking the gardens locked, yes, but with a view that made her chest ache. A desk stocked with books, medical journals she'd never had time to read, and art supplies. Sketchbooks, pencils, charcoal, watercolors. Everything a hobbyist painter could want. How did you know? She demanded, when Jin-ho delivered her breakfast the next morning. Mr. Park is thorough, Jin-ho replied neutrally. He learned you paint. In medical school, you took art classes as stress relief. He's had me investigated. Yes. The casual admission was somehow worse than denial. Adana picked up a piece of charcoal, feeling its familiar weight. She'd packed her supplies when she left Lagos, but hadn't unpacked them in Seoul. Too busy with the hospital, with survival, with running from memories. Now, imprisoned in luxury, she had nothing but time. She started painting her rage. Days passed. 1 week, 2. Adana fell into a routine that felt like drowning in slow motion. Jin-ho brought meals real Nigerian food, somehow sourced in Seoul. Jollof rice that tasted almost like mama's. Suya that made her eyes water with memory and spice. Chin-chin cookies that dissolved on her tongue like childhood. Mr. Park wants you. Comfortable, Jin-ho explained when she asked. Mr. Park wants me compliant, Adana corrected, but she ate the food anyway. She wasn't stupid enough to starve herself as protest. Min-jae visited every evening. He never stayed long 20 minutes, maybe 30. He'd sit in the chair by her balcony, watching her paint, occasionally asking questions. Why medicine? He asked one night. My father. The answer came automatically. He was a surgeon, the best. He could fix anything, save anyone. I wanted to be like him. And are you? Adana's brush stilled. He never got involved with criminals. Are you sure? Min-jae's tone was mild. In Lagos, in his position, he must have treated people of questionable character, gang members, corrupt officials. Did he turn them away? That's different. How? He didn't keep them prisoner afterward. No, Min-jae agreed. He just took their money and sent them back to commit more crimes. At least I'm honest about what I am. Adana wanted to throw her paint at him. Instead, she forced herself to breathe. to count to 10 in Igbo like Papa used to teach her. Otu, abuo, ato. Why do you visit me? She asked finally. You have guards, cameras. You don't need to check on me personally. Min-jae was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I'm not sure anymore. Something in his voice made her turn to look at him fully. In the soft light of her room, he looked younger, tired, human. How old were you? She asked impulsively. When you became this? 23. My father died, and I inherited his empire, his enemies, his debts, his wars. He met her gaze. I didn't want it. But wanting and having rarely align in my world, you could have walked away. Could I? He stood, moving to the balcony door, looking out at the gardens. My father had built something that employed thousands, protected dozens of families. Abandoning it would have meant their deaths, their suffering. So I became the monster they needed. That's a convenient justification. Yes, he agreed. It is. But it's also true. Adana found herself walking closer, paintbrush still in hand. And the woman who's trying to kill me? Seo Yoon? What does she want? Everything. My territories, my businesses, my reputation. His jaw tightened. She was my father's ward, grew up in this house, trained alongside me. I thought of her as a sister. She thought of me as a future husband. When I made it clear that would never happen, she decided if she couldn't have me, she'd destroy me. Hell hath no fury, Adana murmured. Something like that. He turned back to her, and the distance between them felt suddenly very small. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this. If I'd known, you would have let yourself die. No, he admitted. I'm too selfish for that. But I might have been more careful, protected you better from the start. Or never involved me at all. That was never an option. His voice dropped. The moment you put your hands on me, decided I was worth saving, you became part of this, part of my world, part of what I protect. I'm not part of anything, Adana insisted, but her voice lacked conviction, because the terrifying truth was that she was adapting. Getting used to the luxury, the safety, the routine, getting used to Min-jae's evening visits, the way he listened when she talked about her father, her sister, her dreams of running a clinic in Lagos someday. Stockholm Syndrome, her medical training whispered. You're bonding with your captor. But was he really her captor if he was also keeping her alive? The call came at 2 a.m., 3 weeks into Adana's captivity. She was awake, insomnia had become her companion lately, her mind too active to settle. When her door burst open and Jinho entered without knocking, she knew something was wrong. Dr. Adana, we need you. What happened? Mr. Park, he's been shot. The words hit her, like ice water. She was on her feet, grabbing the medical kit she demanded Jinho provide, just in case. She'd said, never expecting to need it. Where? This way. They ran through the mansion her first time outside her wing. She registered security everywhere. Men with guns, the smell of smoke and blood. A battle had happened here. Maybe was still happening. Min-jae was in his bedroom, surrounded by his men. Someone had already stripped his shirt off, exposing the wound through and through, right side, below the ribs. Not immediately fatal, but bad. Very bad. Everyone out, Adana commanded, her doctor voice cutting through the chaos. Except you, she pointed to Jinho. You know how to take orders? Yes. Good. Boil water, find clean towels, get me rubbing alcohol or vodka strongest alcohol in the house. Move. Jinho moved. Adana knelt beside Min-jae, her hands already probing the wound. He was conscious, his eyes tracking her face with an intensity that should have been impossible given his blood loss. Couldn't stay away from me, doctor? His attempt at humor came out as a wheeze. Shut up, save your strength. Her fingers found the entry wound clean, recent, still bleeding heavily. What happened? So-yoon, ambitious as always. She sent 12 men. He coughed, flecks of blood on his lips. We killed 10. 2 escaped, and shot you in the process. It appears so, Jinho returned with supplies. Adana worked with the same focused intensity as that first night, except this time her hand shook. This time, she wasn't treating a stranger. She was treating what? What was Min-jae to her? Adana. His hand caught hers, stilling her movement. If I don't make it, you're making it. I didn't save you 3 weeks ago just to lose you now. Always so confident. His thumb traced her wrist, finding her racing pulse. But if I don't, I want you to know keeping you here, it wasn't just about protection. I wanted you, close. Wanted to know you. You're the first person in years who's looked at me and seen something other than a monster. Min-jae. The documents in my desk. They transfer ownership of everything to you. The house, the legitimate businesses, enough money to live anywhere, do anything. You'll be safe. Free. Terror clawed at Adana's throat. Stop talking like you're dying. We're all dying, doctor. Some of us just faster than others. Not today. She poured alcohol over the wound, ignoring his sharp intake of breath. You're not dying today. Do you hear me? I won't allow it. She worked for hours. Jinho assisted with surprising skill, apparently. Battlefield medicine was part of the job description. The bullet had missed major organs but caused significant internal bleeding. Without a hospital, without proper equipment, this was medieval surgery at best. But Adana's hands didn't shake, not when it mattered. When she finally stitched the last layer closed, dawn was breaking outside. Min-jae had fallen unconscious an hour ago, his body shutting down to heal. His pulse was steady. Weak, but steady. He would live. Adana sat back, her arms aching. Her scrubs, someone had brought her scrubs, covered in blood. Jinho handed her water, which she drank without tasting. Thank you, he said quietly. You saved him, again. It's what I do. But her voice cracked on the last word. Doctor. Adana, I need air. She stood abruptly, needing to be anywhere but this room that smelled like blood and nearly death. I need. She didn't know what she needed. Jinho led her to the garden. The real garden. Not the view from her balcony. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that hurt to look at. Beautiful. Seoul was beautiful. How had she forgotten? He meant it, Jinho said behind her. About the documents. About wanting you close. Mr. Park doesn't let people in. But you. He paused. You got under his skin. I'm his. Doctor. His prisoner. You're more than that. You must know that by now. Did she? Adana thought about Min-jae's evening visits, the way he listened to her stories, brought her Nigerian food, respected her anger even as he held her captive. Thought about the way her pulse jumped when he entered the room, the way she'd started timing her day around his visits. This is insane, she whispered. Yes, Jinho agreed, but so is everything in our world. Insanity is the baseline. Adana laughed. Actually laughed. The sound bitter and bright. Your world, not mine. Are you sure about that? She wasn't. Not anymore. Min-jae healed faster than any patient had a right to. 2 weeks after the shooting, he was walking. 3 weeks, he was back to running his empire from his study. Jinho bringing him reports and problems to solve. Adana watched his recovery with professional satisfaction and personal confusion. She'd moved from her wing to a guest room, closer to his ostensibly, so she could monitor his healing, actually because she couldn't sleep, wondering if he was okay. Stockholm Syndrome, that voice whispered again. Or something else entirely. I have news, Min-jae said one evening, finding her in the garden where she'd taken to painting. Seo-yoon is dead. Adana's brush froze. What? She pushed too hard, too fast. Made enemies of people more dangerous than me. They dealt with the problem. His expression was unreadable. You're safe now. The threat is over. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt nothing. Empty. Which means I can leave, she said slowly. Yes. Min Jae moved closer, sitting on the bench beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth, smell his cologne. I've made arrangements. Your apartment has been cleaned, upgraded security installed. The hospital is expecting you back next week. You can resume your life. My life. The words felt foreign. Or, he paused, you could stay. Adana's heart hammered. Why would I stay? Because I'm asking. Because the past month has been the first time in years I've felt human. Because when I thought I was dying, your face was the last thing I wanted to see. He turned to her, and the vulnerability in his eyes made her throat tight. Because I think you felt it too. This connection. This impossibility. You held me prisoner. I kept you alive. You ruined my life. Or gave you a different one. His hand covered hers on the bench. Stay, Adana. Not as my prisoner. As my... Your what? Your girlfriend? Your partner in crime? As yourself. A surgeon. An artist. A woman who deserves better than sleeping in a closet-sized apartment and working herself to death in a hospital that doesn't value her. I can give you resources. A clinic of your own if you want. Freedom to practice medicine however you choose. Support for your family in Lagos. And what do you get in return? Adana's voice was sharp. My gratitude? My compliance? Your presence. The simplicity of the answer stunned her. I'm not asking you to love me, Adana. I know what I am, what I've done. But I am asking you to stay. To let me try to deserve the second chance you gave me. Adana pulled her hand away, standing abruptly. Her painting lay forgotten on the easel, a portrait of the garden at sunset, all gold and shadow. When had she started painting beautiful things instead of her rage? This is crazy, you know that, right? This whole situation is insane. Normal people don't wear not. She struggled for words. I should hate you. I should be running as far away from you as possible. Yes. Min Jae agreed. You should. But I'm not. The admission came out as a whisper. And I don't know if that makes me strong or stupid or just so broken that I can't recognize danger anymore. Min Jae stood, closing the distance between them. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You survived losing your father, your mother, disappearing, moving to a foreign country alone. You work impossible hours, saving lives that don't thank you. You saved me twice, despite every reason not to. That's not broken, Adana. That's extraordinary. Stop. But she didn't move away when he reached for her hand again. I won't keep you prisoner. I won't force anything. You can walk out that door right now, and I'll have Jinho drive you wherever you want to go. But if you stay... His thumb traced circles on her palm. If you stay, I promise to give you everything I have. Protection, resources, freedom, within safety, and time. Time to decide what this is between us. There's nothing between us, Adana said, but the lie tasted bitter. Isn't there? Min Jae's other hand came up to cup her face, his touch impossibly gentle. Tell me you don't think about me. Tell me your heart doesn't race when I walk into a room. Tell me the past month has meant nothing. She couldn't, because it had meant something. Everything. Against all logic, all reason, all self-preservation. Something had grown between them in this gilded cage. Something that felt like roots digging deep, like paint soaking into canvas, like a wound healing from the inside out. I'm scared, she admitted. Of me? Of this? Of what it means? Of who I become if I stay? Min Jae's forehead touched hers, a gesture so intimate it stole her breath. I'm scared too. I haven't let myself feel anything in years. Feeling is dangerous in my world. But you, he exhaled slowly, you make me want to be dangerous in a different way. Reckless. Human. We're from different worlds. Then we'll build a bridge. Or burn them both down. I don't care which. Adana closed her eyes. She thought about her tiny apartment, her exhausting schedule, the loneliness that had consumed her since Papa died. Thought about her sister in Lagos, struggling to make ends meet. Thought about Mama, lost somewhere to grief and madness. Then she thought about Min Jae's evening visits, the way he listened to her stories like they were sacred texts. Thought about painting in the garden, eating jollof rice that tasted like home, feeling safe for the first time in years. Thought about his blood on her hands, his life in her palms, the weight of knowing she'd chosen to save him not once, but twice. One condition, she said finally. Min Jae pulled back enough to meet her eyes. Anything. Find my mother. You have resources, investigators, connections. Find her, please. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, maybe, or respect. I've already started looking. What? 3 weeks ago, I thought. He hesitated. I thought if I could give you your mother back, it might make up for taking your freedom. I didn't want to say anything until I had results, but my people are searching. We'll find her. Tears blurred Adana's vision. She didn't cry, hadn't cried since Papa's funeral, had learned to swallow grief like medicine. But this kindness, this thoughtfulness from a man who killed without hesitation, who held her captive and called it protection. I don't understand you, she whispered. You don't have to. You just have to trust me. That's asking a lot. I know. His thumb caught a tear that had escaped. But I think maybe you already do. Just a little. He was right. God help her. He was right. Okay, Adana heard herself say. I'll stay, for now. But Min Jae, I'm not your possession. Not your property. If this happens, it happens as equals. Equals, he repeated. And she saw the moment he accepted the term. Embraced it. I can work with that. Then he kissed her. It wasn't what she expected. Not demanding or possessive, but questioning. Gentle, like he was asking permission with every movement of his lips against hers. Like she was something precious instead of something conquered. Adana kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, all her confusion and fear and impossible attraction pouring into the contact. He tasted like danger and possibility, like every bad decision wrapped in perfect justification. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Min Jae rested his forehead against hers again. I won't let you regret this, he promised. That's a big promise from a crime lord. Then it's a good thing I never break my word. Staying was different from being held. Adana noticed it in small ways. Doors that had been locked now opened. Guards who'd been jailers became staff. Protective, yes, but not imprisoning. She could leave the estate with security, Min Jae insisted. And she didn't argue because So-yoon was dead, but her allies weren't. Min Jae kept his promise about the clinic. 2 weeks after Adana agreed to stay, he presented her with building plans. A medical facility in an underserved Seoul neighborhood, fully equipped, fully staffed, with her as director. And more a partnership with a Lagos hospital, funding to support her sister Chioma's work, scholarships for Nigerian medical students. This is too much, Adana protested, looking at the budget figures that made her head spin. It's not enough, Min Jae corrected. You gave me my life back. Twice. This is just the beginning of what I owe you. I don't want payments. I want... She paused, unsure how to articulate the tangle of feelings. I want this to be real, not a transaction. Min Jae set down the papers, giving her his full attention. Then tell me what real looks like to you. I don't know yet. I'm still figuring it out. Then we'll figure it out together. They did. Slowly, carefully, building something that didn't have a name. Adana returned to the hospital 3 days a week. Surgeries that challenged her. Patients who needed her. The other days, she worked on the clinic plans, painted in the garden, and slowly let herself believe this could be sustainable. Min Jae was attentive without being suffocating. He still ran his empire she didn't ask for, details, and he didn't offer them. Some things were better left in shadow, but he made time. Dinners together, walks in the garden, late-night conversations where they traded pieces of their pasts like currency. She learned about his childhood wealth and violence intertwined, a father who taught him power through fear, a mother who died when he was 12. Learned about the weight of inheriting an empire at 23, about the first time he'd killed someone, about the nightmares that still woke him some nights. He learned about her papa's brilliant daughter, Mama's disappearance into grief, the suffocating responsibility of being the family success story while Chioma struggled. Learned about the guilt of leaving Lagos, the loneliness of Seoul, the way surgery was the only thing that made her feel close to her father anymore. "Do you miss him?" Min-jae asked one night, lying beside her in his bed, their bed, increasingly. They'd been intimate once, a slow, careful joining that felt like sealing a promise. Neither rushed toward it again, content with proximity. Every day, he was my compass. Without him, I'm just navigating blind. You're doing better than you think. The clinic, your work, everything you're building. He'd be proud. Would he? Adana rolled to face him. I'm in love with a criminal, Min-jae. Living in blood money. That's not what he wanted for me. You're in love with me? His voice held wonder. She hadn't meant to say it. The words had slipped out, true before she'd examined them. I don't know. This is all so complicated. It doesn't have to be. Min-jae's hand found hers in the darkness. I love you. I've known for weeks. Maybe since that first night when you saved me with such angry competence. Definitely since you told me to shut up while digging a bullet out of my ribs. That's not romantic. It's us. He brought her hand to his lips. Nothing about us is conventional, Adana. Why should our love be? Love, she repeated, testing the word. It should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt like finally naming something that had been there all along. Okay. Yes, I love you. God help me. I love you. His smile in the darkness was beautiful. God help us both. The news came through Jin-ho, as most bad news did. Adana was at the hospital, mid-surgery on a 16-year-old car accident victim, when Jin-ho appeared in the gallery above the OR. He never came to the hospital, never interrupted her work. Something was very wrong. She finished the surgery professional to the end, then scrubbed out and met him in the hallway. It's Mr. Park, Jin-ho said without preamble. There's a situation. He needs you. Is he hurt? Not physically, but there's been a development. He asked me to bring you immediately. The drive to the estate felt eternal. Jin-ho wouldn't elaborate, his jaw tight with tension that made Adana's stomach churn. She'd learned to read the security team, their body language, their silences. Whatever this was, it was bad. Min-jae waited in his study, surrounded by documents and screens showing security feeds. He looked older than she'd ever seen him. Exhaustion and something else defeat etched into his features. What happened? Adana demanded. Your mother. We found her. Joy and terror flooded through her in equal measure. Where? Is she okay? She's alive. In Seoul, actually. Has been for 6 months. Min-jae pulled up a photograph on one of the screens. She's been working as a housekeeper, under a different name. Adana stared at the image. It was Mama older, thinner, but unmistakably her mother. Wearing a maid's uniform, standing in front of a building she recognized. The building was 2 blocks from the hospital where Adana worked. She's been here, Adana whispered. This whole time she's been here, and she didn't. The betrayal was a physical thing, sharp and cutting. There's more. Min-jae's voice was gentle, which made it worse. The family she works for, they're connected to my organization. Low level, but connected. Which means finding her, bringing her here, acknowledging your relationship with her. It exposes her, puts her in danger. What kind of danger? My enemies Seo Yoon might be dead, but others have emerged. If they know about your mother, they'll use her against me, against us. She's vulnerable in a way you're not, because you're protected here. She's out there, unguarded, and now that we've located her, they'll find her too. Adana finished. Understanding dawned, cold and bitter. So, what do we do? I can bring her here, put her under full protection, but... Min-jae hesitated. She's been running from grief, from responsibility, from everything. Forcing her into this life, this world, I don't know if it's kindness or cruelty. She's my mother. I have to see her. I know. And you will. But, Adana, there's something else. He handed her a document. The Lee family, the people she works for, they've made a request. They want assurances, protection. They're afraid of retaliation for employing someone connected to me. What kind of assurances? The kind that cost territory, business deals, power. Min-jae met her eyes. I can give them what they want. But it means giving up my operations in 3 districts. Means weakening my position significantly. My advisors say it's too much to risk for one woman, but you're considering it. For you, I'd consider anything. The weight of that statement pressed down on Adana. You can't give up your empire for my mother. That's insane. I can, and I will if you ask me to. Min-jae, you gave me my life, Adana. You gave me purpose, humanity, something worth protecting beyond power and territory. If bringing your mother home safely means sacrificing districts I barely care about, then it's not even a question. I choose you, always. Adana's throat closed. Your people will see it as weakness. Let them. I'm stronger with you than I ever was without you. And if some territories are the price of your happiness, I'll pay it gladly. She looked at the man before her, this impossible combination of violence and tenderness. This crime lord who'd learned to kneel for the woman he loved, thought about the clinic he'd built for her, the time he'd carved out of his empire to have dinner with her every night, the way he'd searched for months to find her mother. Do it, she said. Make the deal. Bring her home. Min-jae nodded once, then began making calls. Her mother arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Adana waited in the garden, their garden now, where she'd painted her rage and slowly learned to paint hope instead. Jin-ho had warned her. Mama was fragile, confused, possibly unwilling. None of that prepared her for the reality. Mrs. Nwosu Grace, though Adana had always called her Mama, looked like a ghost of herself. Thin, graying, eyes that had seen too much and processed too little. She stepped out of the car slowly, looking around the estate with bewilderment. Mama? Adana's voice cracked. Grace turned, and for a moment there was no recognition. Then, Adana? My Ada? They met in the middle of the garden path, and Adana was 8 years old again, crying into her mother's shoulder when Papa had been late from surgery. Except now she was 28, and Papa was dead, and Mama had abandoned her. You left, Adana whispered into her mother's shoulder. Papa died, and you just left. I know. Oh, my Ada, I know. Grace was crying too, her whole body shaking. I couldn't breathe, couldn't exist in a world without him. So I ran. I changed my name, found work, tried to become someone who didn't remember. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You've been in Seoul for 6 months. I'm at the hospital 2 blocks away. I didn't know you were here. I swear, Ada, I didn't know. I thought you were still in Lagos with Chioma. If I'd known. Grace pulled back, cupping Adana's face with papery hands. If I'd known, I would have. I don't know what I would have done. But I wouldn't have stayed away. They talked for hours. In the garden, then in the house, then through dinner that Min-jae had arranged traditional Nigerian food, pounded yam and egusi soup, the tastes of home. Min-jae stayed in the background, giving them space, but Adana saw him watching, protecting even now. Grace told her story. The grief that had swallowed her, the madness of loss, The need to escape everything that reminded her of Solomon. The flight to Seoul. Random because a travel agent had suggested it. The months of working, sleeping, existing without living. And then these men came, Grace said, gesturing to where Jinho stood by the door. Said my daughter needed me. That I was in danger. I didn't understand. Still don't, really. Ada, what is this place? Who are these people? Adana glanced at Min-jae, who nodded permission. This is my home now, Mama. These people are my family. And the man who found you. She reached for Min-jae's hand as he approached. This is Min-jae Park. He's everything. Grace studied Min-jae with the mother's sharp eyes. You're the man keeping my daughter? I'm the man who loves your daughter, Min-jae corrected gently, and who would do anything to keep her safe, including bringing you home. Home, Grace repeated. I haven't had a home since Solomon died. You do now, Adana said firmly. You have us. Me and Chioma Min-jae is paying for her children's school in Lagos, setting up an education fund and this place. If you want it. Want it? Grace's eyes filled again. Ada, I don't deserve. None of us deserve anything, Mama, but we have it anyway. So we might as well be grateful and try to do better. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning. The platform was the same one where Adana had saved Min-jae's life 10 months ago. Different hour, 3 p.m. instead of 3 a.m., but the same location. Min-jae had arranged for it to be closed, empty except for them and a handful of witnesses. Jinho, Grace, and, on video call from Lagos, Chioma and her 3 kids, shouting excitement through the phone speaker. You're insane, Adana said, staring at the ring in Min-jae's hand. We're standing where you almost died. Where you saved me, he corrected. Where everything changed. Seemed appropriate. Appropriate for a crime lord's proposal? Appropriate for us. He was kneeling on the platform. Expensive suit probably ruined by the concrete. Not caring. Adana Nwosu, you've remade me. Made me human again. Made me want to be better, do better, live better. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you? She should say no. Every rational part of her screamed it. This was madness, loving a criminal, building a life in shadows, accepting blood money, and calling it generosity. But she'd stopped being rational the night she'd decided a dying stranger was worth saving. Yes, Adana said, but on one condition. Anything. The clinic opens to everyone, no questions asked. Your people, your enemies, random strangers off the street. If someone needs medical care, they get it, no matter who they are or what they've done. Min-jae's smile was brilliant. Deal. Though my enemies might take advantage, let them. I'm a doctor first. Everything else second. Even your fiancé, especially my fiancé, he agreed, sliding the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, of course it did. He probably had her ring size investigated months ago. They kissed on the platform, and Adana heard Chioma screaming congratulations from the phone, heard Grace crying quietly, heard Jinho's rare laugh. The moment was perfect in its imperfection. 3 months later, they married in the garden. Traditional Korean ceremony in the morning, traditional Nigerian ceremony in the afternoon. Adana wore white silk, then wore aso-oke in brilliant purple. Min-jae wore hanbok, then wore agbada that made him look like a prince from her father's bedtime stories. Papa would have hated this, probably. Or maybe he would have understood that love doesn't follow rules, doesn't care about propriety or safety or sense. Mama cried through both ceremonies. Happy tears this time. Healing tears. The clinic opened 5 months after the wedding. Nwosu Medical Center named for Papa, carrying his legacy in a way Adana had never imagined. The first patient was a gang member, gunshot wound, terrified and bleeding. Adana saved him while Min-jae's rivals watched from the waiting room, testing whether she'd meant what she'd said. She had. The second patient was a pregnant teenager, nowhere else to go. The third was an elderly woman who couldn't afford her medications. The fourth was one of Min Jae's own men, stabbed in a territorial dispute. Adana treated them all the same, with skill, with compassion, with the steady hands Papa had trained and the fierce heart Mama had given her. 1 year after saving Min Jae's life, Adana discovered she was pregnant. She told him in the garden, paint still on her hands from the mural she was creating on the clinic's waiting room wall. He fell to his knees again, always kneeling for her, and pressed his face to her stomach. "I don't deserve this," he whispered. "Too bad. You're getting it anyway." She ran her fingers through his hair. "A baby, Min Jae. Our baby. Are you ready for that?" "No," he admitted. "But I wasn't ready for you either, and you saved me anyway. This is different." "Yes, this is better." Late night, the estate quiet, except for the sound of rain on the windows. Adana sat in the nursery they'd started preparing soft yellows and greens, culturally neutral, waiting to see who this child would become. Min Jae found her there, wrapping his arms around her from behind, his hands settling over where their baby grew. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That my life didn't turn out anything like I planned. That I should probably be traumatized or broken, or at least morally conflicted. But I'm not. I'm happy. Is that wrong? If it's wrong, we're wrong together. Papa always said that a surgeon's duty is to save lives. No questions, no judgment, just save them. And you did. You saved me." "You saved me too," Adana said quietly. "I was dying, Min Jae. Maybe not physically, but dying all the same. Working myself to death, drowning in grief, losing myself a little more every day. And then you bled all over my emergency room and gave me a reason to fight for something again. So we saved each other." "Yeah, I guess we did." They sat in the nursery, rain falling, future uncertain but together. Crime lord and doctor, Korean and Nigerian, violence and healing, darkness and light, impossibly, perfectly balanced. "I love you," Min Jae said. "I love you too, even though you're terrible. Especially because I'm terrible. Especially because you're terrible," Adana agreed, and kissed him as thunder rolled overhead and their baby kicked for the first time, announcing themselves to the world. A world that would never be simple, never be safe, never be anything but complicated and dangerous and extraordinary. But it would be theirs. Together. Always. And that, besties, is how Dr. Adana Nwosu and Min Jae Park found each other. How a split-second decision in an emergency room became a lifetime commitment. How saving a life meant losing her freedom, and how losing her freedom meant finding herself. Their story isn't perfect. It's messy and morally gray, and probably shouldn't work. But love doesn't care about should. Love just cares about is, and they are. Thanks for joining me today, besties. If you loved Adana and Min Jae's story, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments, would you want to hear more from their world? Maybe about Jinho's story, or Chioma finding love in Lagos, or watching Adana navigate being a mother in the underworld. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is save someone's life, because they might just save yours right back. This has been your Afro Korean story. Stay beautiful, stay fierce, and we'll see you in the next one.